Hello, friend, and welcome to Borgcast Original Series 1.27 with Peter and Anne-Marie.
Hello.
Hello. Previously on Borgcast Original Series, we covered Devil in the Dark, and we heard from Thomas McCamberley. I was just thinking the Devil in the Dark, of course, refers to the Horter from the point of view of the humans, possibly the Horter's point of view of the humans. But pushing past that, if you consider the dark as a metaphor for ignorance, then the devil surely is the instinct to lash out against things unthinkingly that seemingly always is waiting in the dark for us. Which I kind of think was probably what they were getting at originally.
Yeah. Is that what the song was getting at, though?
No, that was something completely different.
And we've heard from Terry Lovejoy Hyman, who says, on a small black and white set, it didn't look that bad.
Yes, I guess back in the day, it would have looked far less dodgy.
Because the picture quality wasn't as high res, but if screens were really small,
yeah,
it wouldn't have been too obvious, I wouldn't have thought.
Mm-hmm. And Drew was asking about whether money has ceased to be a thing yet. Well, it's definitely the case by Star Trek 4. And according to Memory Alpha, currency stopped being used on Earth in the Enterprise era, so it certainly shouldn't be a thing for the miners, but apparently it is.
Although they're not on Earth.
Yeah, that doesn't stop them not being part of the Federation, though, does it? So, very odd.
Well, no, unless it was... It's been too long since I watched Enterprise, but unless in Enterprise currency stopped being a thing on Earth, but it hadn't necessarily reached all the way out to colony worlds and stuff. I don't know.
Anyway, tonight we're covering Errand of Mercy, the title of which comes from Dickens's Nicholas Nickleby, Culture. Written by Gene L. Coon, the series producer, and of course the second in the row from him, because he did the last one as well. He's on fire. Were they running out of scripts at this late stage in season 1? Possibly, maybe. But it's giving us quality Trek entertainment, so we're not complaining.
Yeah.
Directed by John Newland. This is his only original series credit. He was an actor earlier in his career and introduced One Step Beyond.
One Step Beyond!
Where I went, a Twilight Zone style anthology show which aired unfortunately 25 years too early to use that classic Madness track as its opening credits, because you would, wouldn't you? But there we go.
Captain's log, stardate 3198.4. We have reached Organia and established standard orbit. No signs of hostile activities in this area.
Thank you for your altruistic offer, Captain.
We offer you protection.
We assure you that we are in absolutely no danger.
Out of the way, Organian.
Should one Klingon soldier be killed, 1,000 Organians will die.
What are the odds now?
Less than 7,000 to 1, Captain.
Less than 7,000 to 1. Well, getting better. Getting better.
It has begun.
So, you're on the bridge, and Kirk picks up his tricorder for the latest news.
I don't think it is a tricorder, actually. It's some sort of instrument he's got there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a... Quinn said it was like a brick phone, wasn't it?
Yes.
There's negotiations with the Klingons are broken down, so they're expecting a surprise attack. Well, it's not really a surprise if you're expecting it, is it?
Yeah, well, I suppose the surprise will be where it happens and when.
Okay. Meanwhile, the Enterprise is sent off to Organia, our planet.
Yeah,
clearly.
I guess so, yes.
Planet of beer and cheese. It's the only Class M planet in the area. And then he has this conversation with Spock about how it's like another Armenia and how it's always the innocent on the path to invasion. And isn't there a thing about the Armenian genocide and not everybody recognises it as a thing?
That's exactly right, yes. It was invaded by Ottoman Turks and Russians at various points. And yeah, like the other country mentioned, Belgium was generally on the way to invading somewhere else, so generally got trampled on the way, sadly.
But not everybody, I say not everybody, presumably the Russians probably, not everybody, and I think it's the Turks, don't recognise the Armenian genocide as a thing, and they pretend it didn't happen. Because I think it was one of the barriers to Turkey becoming part of the EU.
Yes, it was the Turks.
Yeah. So that's at that point, that's probably started being quite political, a bit like Next Gen did with the,
the mentioning the RA winning, yes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not considered political in Armenia the way it is in Europe because they're further away from Turkey, if you see what I mean. But it can be seen as quite a political statement to even refer to the Armenian genocide. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I presumed that's what they were referencing. And then they get fired upon, which you can tell because Spock sort of hurls himself over a console and then the whole thing shakes.
Yeah, we do get to see some shots hitting them, but we unfortunately don't get to see the ships that are actually firing. No. They're not even light dots in the distance like we've sometimes
just nothing.
had. Yeah, we have to wait until season 3 until we see a Klingon ship. Unless, of course, you're watching the remastered version, in which case you get D7s, which would have been good if they'd used miniatures, but instead it's crummy CG, so...
Fine. Anyway, apparently only minor damage has been done to the Enterprise and there's only debris that appears left of the other ship.
Yeah, they kicked their butts, didn't they? Blimey.
Well, except I kept thinking of this, and because of course I'm aware of Klingons from later, I'm thinking, what, did they cloak and fuck off?
Yeah, I don't think they have cloak... Well, they never used to have cloaking devices at this point. I think, unfortunately, Enterprise muddied the waters on that, but...
Okay.
And Discovery possibly as well. But yes, I think later on they get, as things were originally, they get the cloaking devices from the Romulans in return for sharing their ships with them.
Yeah. That's what my book says.
Your book is right. This will be the one that, is it Hero Clicks or something?
I don't know. The Klingon spaceship book.
Yes, it's the one that is sort of it's from those miniatures they produced and which came with like magazines, and it's basically...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was called. Anyway, I like it. Anyway, they then pick up that it's now Code 1 from Starfleet. They're at war with the Klingons. So they're going to Organia quick to try and make it the Federation planet rather than a Klingon planet. And apparently the civilization is primitive, or D- on the cultural scale. That just sounds like they failed some kind of exam.
It's not just the cultural scale, the cultural Richter scale. It's like, sorry, the Richter scale's about earthquakes. What the hell?
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yes. Well, then they see some kind of ruined castle, and then it's like, well, then clearly not as primitive as we thought. So then a bloke appears and says, nobody has any authority here, but I'm chairman of the Council of Elders.
So this is Aelborn, who's played by John Abbott, who voiced the wolf in Jungle Book.
Did he?
Yeah, can you remember the wolf in Jungle Book? Because I can't remember the wolf. Is it the wolf?
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go. He provided the voice for Arcala. It was also, and this probably won't come as a surprise, Prospero in a TV adaptation of The Tempest.
Yeah,
yeah, it's quite a stagey actor, isn't he? So you can
is.
believe that.
Yeah.
And he was in The Usual Suspects, Land of Giants, Lost in Space, Man from U.N.C.L.E., that sort of thing.
But not BJ and the Bear.
But no, sadly not. No, that was a bit later on. Yeah, also worth mentioning, they're filming in the Arab village backlot on 40 acres, which was a standing set owned by Desilu, and was previously used in The Cage.
Okay.
There's a bit where they sort of show the exterior of the castle, which immediately I go, it's only a model. Yeah. But actually it's stock footage of a castle in Haiti, apparently.
Oh, there we are. So you've got Kirk going down and giving his, I say impassioned speech. It's just bad. It's just really bad acting with all the pronunciation to give emphasis in strange places. And basically he's saying, look, the Klingons are expected to move against Organia. The Federation does offer you a choice, will offer you protection. And they're like, we don't need any defences. And at no point does Kirk go, why? He just goes, no, you're wrong. And I just think, why don't you ask why? But he doesn't, does he? No.
He's talking to the council. There are two other speaking members of the council. One of them is called Claymore. They get named on screen. He's played by Peter Brocco, who was in Spartacus, and he was also a priest in the A-Team, and The Usual Suspects as well. And the other guy is Trefane, who does get named, I think. He's the one with the white hair. David Hilary Hughes. This was his last role. And he also played a bank clerk in Mary Poppins.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Actually, when you say it's that guy's last role, I mean, he looks half dead.
Died in 1971, so a couple of years later.
Yeah. And they say that they were not in any danger. And again, instead of asking why, Kirk just goes, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Read the room. Something not quite right about these dudes.
Spock then comes in through the magic doors that open themselves.
Yeah, that's bizarre. There's no sign of any mechanism to do that. They just magically open. That should give them an idea that these guys are a little more than meets the eye.
And he says, because he's been investigating in the village, and he says the society is stagnant. They haven't made any progress for 10,000 years.
Stinky.
So it's an arrested culture. Then up in orbit, the Enterprise is being fired upon. And then one of the elders says many men have landed in the Citadel with many weapons. And they offer to protect Kirk, who just looks at them like they're mad. Again, he doesn't ask why or how.
By the way, on the Enterprise, of course, Sulu is in command, which is rather nice. I mean, arguably, it should be Scotty as the third most senior, but presumably he's tied up with something in engineering, so it makes sense for it to be Sulu.
Yeah, although when I looked, he wasn't in the chair. He wasn't sitting in the
Yeah, I'm not sure
chair.
if he gets a chance to sit. He's sort of stood up for quite a bit.
Yeah,
isn't
so
he?
he's not necessarily where he normally would be, but he's not actually sitting in the chair being commandy.
He's standing being commanded. He's that kind of guy.
Fair enough.
Worth mentioning also that whilst Kirk is very sensible in telling Sulu, not to engage the Klingon fleet, but to get the heck out of there, what's not so sensible, of course, is that, knowing full well that they're going, they've declared war with the Klingons and Organia is going to be a bit of a battleground. It's the two most senior officers from the Enterprise who've been down on the planet and are now stranded.
Not clever. So, having offered to protect Kirk, they then say, look, you need to pretend to be an Organian, you can blend in. What do we do about Mr. Spock?
Give him a hat.
I was going to say, they could just give him a fucking hat. But instead they say he's going to be a Vulcan trader. And I can't remember what they sell, but it's...
Kivas and Trillion, which is mentioned again in Trials and Tribulations.
Okay. But he literally repeats what he's told line for line later when he says that's what he is. Anyway, she's going to be a Vulcan trader. And the Klingons appear and Kor sachets in.
Right, okay, so this is our first look at Klingons. I like the uniforms. The disruptors were last seen in the hands of the Eminians in Taste of Armageddon. But obviously the browned up faces are a bit of a problem. And Kor's Oriental look, a bit more of a problem.
Well, he's sort of weird, isn't it? Because he's browned up, but then very sort of...
Oriental.
Yeah, in an odd way.
Played, of course, by John Colicos, who we know well from Battlestar Galactica.
But presumably this was before Battlestar
It was,
Galactica.
yes. It was also in Wonder Woman. And
Wonder Woman.
the amazing sounding The Bastard.
What?
This is a TV miniseries. Let's watch the trailer, folks.
The Bastard. Based on the best-selling novel by John Jakes, The Bastard is the sweeping saga of Philip Kent, the illegitimate son of an English nobleman who becomes part of the turbulent adventure that was to be the beginning of the American Revolution.
Why do you always treat me as though I am different?
Because you are.
You said your father's English.
I am a bastard. My name is Philippe Charbonneau.
The Marquis de Lafayette.
Some deference is due the Prime Minister of England.
Well, I do not give a damn who you are.
You still want all those dreams your mother spun for you. You want to be a nobleman. You want everything your brother had, even his wife.
You have been unbelievably kind to me, sir.
I can do no less for a marked man.
Featuring an all-star cast including Andrew Stevens, Tom Bosley, Kim Cattrall, Lorne Green, Olivia Hussey, Patricia Neal, Eleanor Parker, Donald Pleasance, and William Shatner. A story of romance, adventure, and passion. The Bastard. On video cassette.
I'm not sure you can make that now, really. Hello, I would like to hire a copy of The Bastard.
Is it not that rude a word in American?
I don't know. Surely I've seen films where people get called. What's the one where you go, you bloody bastard?
No, but you see, that's...
Oh, that's Flash Gordon, isn't it? Which was made in this country, and it was what's his
And
face?
it was Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton, yeah. Come on, United States, surely you use bastard for swearing as well? Anyway, I really, really want to see that now. Yes! If we could trace us a copy, we might do a Christmas special on that.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yes. Wow, I have completely lost my place now.
Well, we were talking about John Colicos.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, his sash. Did you recognise that?
Yeah, it looks like the one Worf wears.
Exactly, in season 1 of Next Generation.
I think we see it in his quarters later.
Yes, you do see it.
He's not wearing it, but he's still got it.
Yes, I believe it's called a baldric, isn't it?
Yes. Blackadder.
Cunning plan.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's got kind of got the... It's interesting because there's a torch on the wall of the room that Kor uses as his headquarters, and also they've got like headed notepaper as well. With this...
I love that, but it hasn't got the normal Klingon symbol.
Yeah,
on it.
so those are both the same symbol, and this apparently will only appear once more and then get dropped. But it's similar to what's on the Baldric, which makes me think that this is Kor's house emblem.
Ah.
Which, obviously they haven't invented houses yet, but that works.
I thought they had invented houses. Don't they live in them?
I'll do the dad jokes, thank you.
Aren't you just allowed people jokes or just shit
Nope.
jokes?
No, shit jokes are my purview.
I grew up with masses of them that I can realise.
I mean, it is nice they bring their own burning torch, isn't it? It's interesting. You know what this room's lacking? A giant burning torch with my house logo on it.
Yeah, clearly. But he just walks in and announces himself as military governor of Volgania.
Oh, he announces himself as Mr. Awesome. I mean, that's quite the entrance.
Brilliant. And I love it, though, that what he says to Kirk is, like, because Kirk is not being... He's being as restrained as he can be, if you see what I mean. He's not being his normal, like, really aggressive, what the fuck are you doing self, but he's not doing a very good job of pretending to be an Organian. And so he turns around and says, where is your stupid idiotic smile? And I just love that. And I do really enjoy the chemistry between Kor and Kirk.
Yes.
And I do...
Shatner and Colicos really,
and they bounce off
Shatner
each other.
starts acting properly at this point.
He does. I think he's the Ronnie O'Sullivan of acting.
Wow, back to snooker again.
Yeah, because Ronnie O'Sullivan often plays badly against opponents that he considers weaker. Sometimes they trounce him because they're not as weak as he thinks. But he doesn't... It's almost like he can't bring his A game if he doesn't respect his opponent. And that, to me, is what Shatner's acting is like, is that he needs somebody there.
We do see it often. He will raise his game if he's playing off somebody good, but yeah.
So he's capable of good acting, but it's almost like he can't bring it to the table.
I mean, Star Trek 2, for instance, even though he doesn't physically share a scene with Khan, Ricardo Montalban and him still managed to spar really well.
So he's capable of good acting, but he doesn't always bring it to the table. Hence the Ronnie O'Sullivan, you see, of the acting world.
Good.
Anyway, he sort of says to Spock, you might be a spy, and Kirk's like, he's no spy. And then he says that, like, you're all citizens of the Klingon Empire, there are going to be rules and regulations. If you don't obey them, you will die. And then he turns around and he says, I need someone to be sort of my ambassador to these people. And then he says, I don't trust men who smile too much, which I like. So he turns on Kirk and says, you're going to be my advocate, Barona. And then he says, if one Klingon dies, then 1,000 Organians will die. And then the Organians are just like, all we want is peace. And then you can just see the disparaging look that they're getting. Whereas Spock looks more confused than disparaging, whereas Kirk's just like, who are you? And one of the many rules that's talked about is there's no gatherings of more than 3 people. And all this stuff was really reminding me of what we've recently been watching with Andor and the Empire there. Very, very reminiscent. So then they expose Spock to a Klingon mind sifter.
You are authorized to use the mind probe.
What? No, not the mind probe.
It gets given a number of different names in the same episode.
Mind scanner, mind sifter, yes, but it is basically the mind probe.
Yeah, basically. Anyway, because he's a Vulcan and he's learned to shield his emotions, he can also shield his real identity from them. And then he says, the Klingons say to Kirk, you've got to keep the people in order. And he says to Kor, or I'll be killed. And it's like, yep. And then a Klingon pushes him. And he goes to push him back, and Spock sort of intervenes and then apologises. And Kirk goes, you didn't think I was going to beat his head in? And Spock's like, yep. And Kirk's like, yeah, quite right, I was going to. And I like that as a scene. He can be honest.
Yeah.
So they decide that if they can't make the Organians fight like the usual way, what they're going to do instead is do something sort of insurrectionist. So they're not going to go for people, they're going to go for property, which makes sense. They're aware of a munitions dump and they want to go and blow it up. So they're going to do that night. So Kirk's up some stairs and he jumps on a guard. And then Spock uses a World War II grenade, which I don't know where he got it from either, to blow up the dump. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it just in his pocket randomly or something?
I don't know if it was supposed to be a Klingon grenade that he got hold of that he
but
was
it
going to
just
use.
looks like a World War II grenade, though, doesn't it?
It does, yes. What the United States is called a pineapple.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit odd, but never mind. I suppose it's so that we recognise what it is, or at least the audience at the time would have immediately.
Yeah, I can see the logic there, but where did he get it from?
I think the idea is he nicked it off a Klingon.
What, right, so they're just walking around with grenades in their pockets then?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's hard.
Right.
Well, the way Klingons play Russian roulette.
Imagine if it goes off in your pants.
Yeah. So, yes, they blow up the munitions dump, which is quite an impressive-looking explosion, it has to be said. Kirk is called before the Organian Council and reprimanded for his violence. Don't do it again, he's told. You're a chicken, he replies, but Cora's been listening in, having cunningly bugged the council room.
I mean, maybe the Organians genuinely don't care, but
Yeah.
Kirk should have thought of that.
Yeah, he should have spotted that great big thing in the corner there.
Or even if he couldn't see anything, surely he should have just assumed that this would have happened by now. I
Yep.
would.
Kor slags off the council for their spinelessness, and then Aelborn dobs Kirk in to avoid the Klingons using the mind probe on him. I had hoped to meet you in battle, Kor says, almost in awe. It's the similar sort of levels of awe we get towards Kirk in Star Trek 6 as well, isn't it? Yeah. Rather rudely, Kirk says he has no desire to die for the likes of Aelborn, which is a bit rude, but there we are.
No, I don't think... Although he's wrong for never asking them why or what their reason is by anything, I do understand that from his point of view, they've not done anything to defend themselves, and that's what he's saying. Is that?
But he really should be taking his cue from them. It's their planet after all, I think.
Yeah.
It's very silly. But anyway.
Yeah. Or just asking them, you know.
Back in his quarters, Kor offers Kirk a drinky and his admiration. We get what has become a bit of a hoary cliche, but maybe wasn't at the time. You're much like us.
Yeah.
Kor asks about the Federation fleet and is told to go climb a tree, which is an interesting phrase, not one we use on these shores.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Go take a hike, we'd say, I guess. Or, you know.
Get in the sea.
Yeah, these days, yes.
Yeah. Or go jump in a lake. I've heard that when I was a kid.
Yep. Thrown in a cell with Spock for a few hours, they're surprised by Aelborn coming to their rescue. He somehow makes the guards not see him or Kirk and Spock leave. Kor orders...
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yes, it is a bit, isn't it? Kor orders 200 Organians rounded up and shot every hour until the officers are returned. Kirk threatens Aelborn to get their faces returned, which is not a good look. But the captain gets what he wants and points out he's willing to sacrifice himself and Spock for them. The council realises it will have to act to stop further violence. As Kirk and Spock mount an assault on Kor's HQ and prove he's meant to be rather cack, to be honest, the two of them quite easily get into the central command area. The Klingon lieutenant... who's, I don't think it's known, he's just Klingon lieutenant.
Yeah, there's one that was just called lieutenant.
Yeah, they capture him and get the location of him. He was played by Victor Lundin. He's not the greatest actor ever. He auditioned for Spock, I can see why he didn't get it.
Yeah.
He also played a Psy-Corps official in Babylon 5. He was in 4 episodes of 60s Batman as different characters, including Chief Standing Pat, a Native American, and Octopus, one of Penguin's henchmen, apparently. Anyway, he doesn't seem to have read the memo about the importance of death over dishonour, giving away his boss's location to Kirk.
Yeah.
The commander informs them their fleet is on the way, as is the Klingon force. At least Kirk refuses to kill Kor, who points out that the Klingons operate as a part of a greater whole, always under surveillance, indicating a camera.
Makes me think that they're trying to say the Klingons are the USSR and it's all
exactly what they're trying to say when they say they're only part of a greater whole.
Yeah.
That's very, what the US thought of USSR at the time. And the whole surveillance culture obviously was quite sort of deep. As Klingons storm the room, they all have to drop their disruptors, and they can't even touch one another to punch. And on the Enterprise bridge, the crew have to step away from their stations due to extreme heat. Crazy heat, as it turns out. The Organians rock up, apologising for interfering. Aelborn says he's stopping the war here and in the rest of the universe.
Wow.
Poof, that's power. Also, they reveal they are unkillable. Kirk complains they have no right to stop them waging war before realising what he said.
I like that.
Aelborn reveals that in the future the Federation and Klingons will work together.
And be fast friends, and it's true.
Spoilers. The Organians reveal themselves to be incorporeal beings before naffing off.
In a very bright light.
Yes, Spock's reactions was sampled by Information Society in a song What's on Your Mind, which also includes a line from McCoy from I, Mud. It did rather well in their native US, And indeed, Jeffrey Mark Hyman flagged this tune up as well. But it only reached number 81 in the top 40 here, to give you some idea of how bad it did. Yes.
I mean, number 81 in the top 100, not 81 in the top 40.
Well, we always used to do the top 40, didn't we? I mean, there were more than 40 tunes, obviously, in the charts, but we only ever concentrated on the top 40. So the point is, they did pants.
Yes.
Hence, I'd never heard of it before.
Well, what's the tune?
It's not great. It's about 30 seconds of a good track. Then on inwards, not so good.
Can I hear it?
You can.
I can see behind your eyes the things that I don't know. If you hide away from me, how can our love grow? I want to know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I want to know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Quite like that.
It's got a sort of Human League-y vibe about it, hasn't it?
It does.
It doesn't go much further than that, unfortunately. It's a bit...
Okay.
Core ruefully reflects that their conflict would have been glorious.
I like that, though.
Yeah, thus setting the template for all Klingons to come, I think it's fair to say.
But also, I mean, I just love the smile on his face that he's recognised an adversary. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of worthy of him, and he. Do you know what I mean? That they're worthy of each other, and yeah. And when he says to Kirk, go on, we can take him. It's like, you were my enemy, but right now we've got a common enemy. And you can kind of see that they could be fast friends, as it's described, and work together even in this. Well, I really like it.
On the bridge, Kirk reflects on being embarrassed at his insistence on fighting a war he didn't want, and how off-putting it is to find a more powerful species than his. He should be used to that by now, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, yes, Klingons enter the Trek universe with a bang, in no small part due to Kolokos's excellent performance.
Oh, he's brilliant.
They also came to be favoured over the Romulans as their makeup was simpler. Sadly, it was rather more racist. That's the downside.
Yeah.
It's an interesting reflection on pacifism. Normally, that's like bad, okay. But here, of course, the pacifists are super powerful, so they can do it. It's supposed to be a reflection on Vietnam, but here the Vietnamese are incorporeal beings that can do what they want, so it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, we haven't had any of those sort of beings for a while, but I could go a while longer before we do again.
Yeah.
The Organians ultimately are rather dull. They crop up again in season 4 of Enterprise, not that I remember that story.
I don't either.
But what we remember from this story is all the sparring between Kirk and Core, basically. That's the good stuff.
And it is good. It is really good.
The problem with the plot is, where are the Organians next time things kick off with the Klingons, or the Cardassians, or the Borg? There are apparently non-canon explanations, including the Organians bluffing about having any influence outside their star system, which seems a bit unlikely. Why would they lie? In the DC comics, a similar superpowered species from a season 3 story takes out the Organians, so that kind of explains that. But yeah, there's no in-series explanation for why, because the Klingons come back and they're able to have conflict, so something clearly happened with the Organians, but hey.
Yeah, unless they're only bothered because they came and disturbed their planet and they're actually slightly selfish. So we're stopping it throughout the entire universe at the moment because you're here. You fuck off somewhere else, we don't give a shit.
That's not the impression they give, though, is it? It's like, I'm telling you, there's going to be no war anywhere in the universe. Like, right?
Yeah, no, they say that, but that doesn't mean forever. It means at the moment, because you're on my doorstep. That's actually how I interpreted it when I watched it, was that we don't want you on your doorstep, and we don't want your war coming back here. Whether you leave it long enough and they've forgotten. I don't know.
Not very likely, is it?
But it is odd and it kind of doesn't work. But I kind of think that in terms of the series as a whole, the person who wrote this episode would have written the series into a corner. So they just had to ignore it. In the same way as there's other things that don't work if you try and follow canon very strictly, particularly from season 1 of Star Trek onwards.
It would be good if in the next story that features Klingons they address this, but they don't. So... No. Oh, well.
And then with some things, they just don't address them properly. I mean, also as well, there they are, the really evolved, super evolved society, but they only ever appear as men.
We will see one...
There was one woman walking around, not part of the Council of Elders. None of those women.
Oh, you mean the Organians?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We saw more goats than we did women, I think.
Yeah. So none of
Green goats at that.
Yeah. But so, supposedly they're this really evolved society, and they're all white men.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like that at all. It probably never even occurred to them when they were writing it. But as a modern viewer, that really bothers me.
Uh-huh.
And we've heard from Jeff, who writes, Colicos knocks it out the park, and this episode has the brilliant twist of having our protagonist be 100% completely in the wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, the look on Kirk's face when he finally the penny drops is really good.
Whereas Spock's not bothered, is he?
No, he's just impassively taking it all in, isn't he?
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Cheers, Jeff. We've heard from Boss. First thing I noticed about this episode is the planet was called Organia. Clearly, Gene Roddenberry was such a visionary that he foretold your podcast and named it in your honour. I enjoyed this one despite having seen it more recently than the others, and so remembered that the Organians were higher beings who were able to stop all the violence. The interaction between Kirk, Spock and Core was enough to keep my interest. Yeah. If I hadn't seen the episode before, I would probably spent most of it thinking, those aren't Klingons.
Yeah.
Yes, to be honest, I seem to remember because my first exposure to the Klingons was the movies. So when I eventually saw original series episodes with Klingons, and I went, hey, that's not right.
Yeah.
And what's Boltar doing there? These Klingons were very different to those we are used to seeing in later Trek, but no less menacing. I thought John Colicos played his part well, although I was expecting him to say, by your command, to him at some point. I did find it funny that after Kirk used a fake name to hide his identity, Spock then used his real one and kept on calling him Captain. Maybe Spock couldn't choose a fake name for himself because Vulcans can't lie. I also noticed Spock being referred as being both Vulcan and Vulcanian within minutes of each other. Yes, that's true. This is apparently the last time they'll use Vulcanian. The only minor gripe I have is that the space battle at the beginning was very short and we didn't get a good look at the bird of prey, which was very easily destroyed.
Yeah.
Make that no look at all. And of course, bird of preys aren't the thing yet. It would be a D7, but yeah, we don't see them in the ordinary version. I'll finish with a question. Was the castle set where they shot the two guards reused from the cage? Yes. It was.
Yes, it was. And it's all very well saying that Roddenberry thought ahead to us with the Organians. But you know me, boss. How likely am I to be pacifist and all about not the violence? And we've heard from Sampo and Yona. What did they make of this?
Hello.
Hello.
So we just watched Errand of Mercy.
What happened in it?
Klingons.
And green space goats.
Oh yeah, okay, prop guy, we need some alien animals. Okay, some goats, some green color on them. That'll be fine. Well, I mean, they were figments of imagination, so I mean, everything's fair after that. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, the people were glowing space boobs, so like you. Okay, I took your line. Sorry.
None taken. It was a bad line anyway. So their name was like organs, and it
Organians. Not organs, although that would been quite funny. Organians, yeah.
So it leads us to think that they are made of something organ.
It didn't lead me to think anything like that, but yeah.
And then they were not, because they were like spirits or something.
Yeah, ascended the material plane. Pure thought or something, Kirk was pretty much a dick in this episode, I think. I mean, he came down there and insulted their culture and tried to impose. I mean,
I don't know if the insult is the best way to sell a product.
No, I don't think so.
Like peace.
So yeah, Kirk was pretty pro-war during all this. I mean, it was a bit, I'd say almost a bit out of character. I mean, of course, he sort of realized at the end, and then he was.
But he's a proper capitalist now.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Like Klingons seem to be like some kind of communists, perhaps.
Yeah, the Klingons were a very thinly veiled.
Although they did look like Mongolian kings.
Yeah, the 60s were problematic. So let's just leave it there.
See that.
Yeah, speaking, problematic, you noticed something about the council.
I tried to tell something clever to point out that they were again all men, but I couldn't figure anything. So there you go.
Yeah.
Again, we have this manly fight.
Although, it would be really nice in the real life as well if some godlike beings just came and said, okay, none of your weapons work.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
But they would have had like a place to put women in, because the spirits are like non-gender perhaps, or do they have like blue and red spirits?
Good question. I mean, I guess they don't boink because no one has died or, I guess, been born for thousands of years, so they just sort of exist.
No progress, you see.
Maybe they work on different time scale to us, so, you know.
Yeah, maybe they have some. We have the amoeba timeline, and they have their own.
You know, a fly might live for 1 year. I think, well, there's no sign of any progress here.
Yeah, I was, like you said, Kirk being a dick. And like going there, offending the culture, trying to make them have a war.
Yeah.
And then like, I don't know, it's just, didn't he see himself what it looked like?
Well, he had his orders because a war just broke out, so their orders were to prevent the Klingons from taking that planet and using it as a base against them. So he had his orders, but I mean, the way he went about it was a bit sort of, and I mean, in the end, when he was sort of arguing for war, it was a bit silly.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But I still liked this episode. I think it was nice. One of my favorites so far.
Out of the 3 we watched. It didn't have a giant pizza, or what was the first one we watched?
I don't remember.
Neither do I. I guess that says it all.
Yes.
It was I mean, I knew the twist was coming, so it was a bit, because it did maybe drag a bit, because I knew the twist, and at every scene it was like, oh, we don't like violence, and it was, I mean, it repeated itself a bit, but I mean, I don't mind. It worked well, and seeing it for the first time, it was what a twist. I mean, they were gods after all. I mean,
boobs.
Yeah, although I mean, they do run into godlike beings almost every other week anyway, so it shouldn't be a big surprise. Okay, I guess that'll do. Until next time.
Yes, looking forward to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Boobs.
Bye.
Bye. Boobs.
Glowing space boobs. They're the best kind.
Yeah. Kirk was a dick. You're not wrong. He was.
Not wrong. Yeah. And he kind of realises it at the end as well, which is nice. So
yeah.
I do like that, you know, he's not always perfect, so that's good. And yes, ironic that the Organians are completely non-organic. There we go.
Yeah.
Not the best named species ever, but there we are. I suppose it would have been a giveaway if they'd introduced themselves as the glowy space boobs.
Or a disappointment, depending on your point of view.
All right. What's disappointing about glowy space boobs?
Well, they're not really, are they? They're not actual boobies that glow.
Huge boobies. What could be wrong with that? And it just goes to show they were in touch with their feminine side, so, you know. Unless they were bollocks, of course.
Oh.
Ooh.
Glowing
Yes.
scrotums.
Glowing scrotums. Lovely. That's the name of my prog band. Next up we has Llama God.
Look, Scotty, Fixia, Unyig, Fixie Tree. No, not the Mine Sifter. Right, I think we'll start by addressing the flat-headed elephant in the room, won't we? No, not that one, no, the other one. That is the Klingons themselves. Yes, this is the classic episode that introduces the Klingons, and yes, they are something, aren't they? At least from a visual design perspective and a costuming and makeup perspective, yes, they are something, and what that something is not great, is it? You won't expect me to say anything positive about the way the Klingons look. As you might expect, Joe did indeed have thoughts on this issue, and when they became coherent again, they were basically astoundment at the fact that they somehow able to offend 2 different cultures at once. Yes, we've got blackface and we've got stereotypical Chinese hairstyling. It's not great. It's not subtle, is it? Is this supposed to be some sort of Cold War allegory? Yeah, we get it. Is it supposed to be something racist? Probably not, but it is. So yeah, that makes it, as with other episodes we've covered recently, this kind of makes it a little bit difficult to see past. But let's look at the story anyway, shall we? If we can. And what is the story? It's a classic one, isn't it? It's the first time we get to meet the Klingons. It's a classic trope of superpowered aliens intervening to save the day, although in a reversal of the normal situation, this isn't Kirk coming in and stopping the godlike beings from interfering because they're actually supercomputers or something. No, this time the godlike beings actually get their way and save the day and really rescue the Enterprise crew, who do nothing but muck things up. But yeah, that's the classic aspect of it. But what's the story actually about? Is this yet another anti-war parable? We've already had the potentially anti-hippie episode with the Paradise episode a couple of weeks back. So is this another one of those? We do spend a lot of the episode watching Kirk and Spock being very frustrated with a very relaxed, laid-back pacifist Organians, and we do get an awful lot of Kirk just wanting to go to war, wanting to rise up, wanting to take action at any cost. That is his thing for this episode. He announces at some point that he is a soldier, not a diplomat, and that's interesting as this record. Obviously, as we've said before, at this point in Star Trek, the TV series' history, what the Federation and Starfleet was is still loosely defined. It's coming to some sort of focus roundabout now, but it's still not defined, so we're telling basically another anthology-like story, which just so happens to feature Kirk in a particular role that needs to be played, and so without much in the way of canon preceding this, that's why he gets to utter those lines. But I don't know whether, at what point, or if any point, that we find out that Kirk is actually more of a diplomat. I know that's more Picard's thing we see going forward, and certainly Kirk isn't much of a diplomat, as what you just said. He does tend to just wade in with guns, shoot things, and get answers, but I wouldn't say he's just a warrior, so yeah, I'll be interested to see how that progresses throughout the course of the series. But certainly, as the Organians themselves point out, the motivation of Kirk, and on behalf of the Federation, is just that he wants the right to wage war. He wants the right to go on killings, and they look utterly bemused by it. So at the same time, you could see it as an anti-war parallel. So maybe there's enough here to keep both sides of the argument happy. So it's definitely something interesting from that perspective. And from a historical perspective, this episode being written and aired at the height of the Cold War, it definitely would have given a lot to talk about the day it was aired. And also now, because it's not like we're living in peaceful times at the moment, really, is it? I think what would have been interesting would be if the war had been about something that was actually ideological, not just territorial. Yes, I have indeed just finished watching the final episode of Andor. You should all watch Andor, it's great. But yeah, the fact that it's just about Klingons wanting to expand and the Federation not wanting them to expand, yeah, that's less interesting. There's certainly arguments to be had, and there are stories to be told about fighting for beliefs, and those are very important stories. Fighting for rights, identity, beliefs. Those aren't just things you should sit back and just let be eroded. You shouldn't be passive against their erosion. But that's not what this story is about. This story is just about force. So it'd be very interesting to see a story that was like this, using the same contact with the Organians, but against a matter of actual principle. But as I say, as it is, it was probably appropriate for the times when such concerns were less immediate than possible immediate nuclear annihilation. So yeah, I guess maybe it works. But still, as I say, it succeeds in as much as, at least I'm here talking about it, wondering about it. So I guess in that respect, it certainly is a classic Star Trek episode. John Colicos, of course, also puts in a great shift as Core. Obviously, it's kind of difficult to look past the makeup and the rather racist caricatures that happen, but given that, yeah, he's doing a good thing. He does, of course, do a much better job when we see him again in Deep Space Nine, so I can see why they brought him back. It is a good role, and he does act as a great foil for Kirk with them both. As they say, they are the old cliche, we're both the same, you and I. So yeah, that kind of entertains as well, to an extent. And of course, given this is the first time we see the Klingons, this is the first time we see the D7s, or at least this is the first time I see the D7s. The remasters do feature distance shots, so not close-ups, but shots of a fleet of D7s attacking the Enterprise at the start. I don't know whether you see that in the original version. I'm happy to have just gotten that sort of distance shot. That was fine enough for me. And what isn't interesting is when the Klingons do attack, there's mention of the fact that the Enterprise's automatic deflectors took the brunt of the damage. Automatic deflectors. I think that's something that would have been useful for them to remember to have turned on every other iteration of the Enterprise in the future. Might have even saved the Enterprise D over Iridium 3. Oh well, never mind. As I say, things very much in a state of flux at this point, so yeah, I guess I'll forgive it for that. So yeah, certainly a classic episode. Whether it's good or not depends on whether you can overlook the racism, but the ideas are there and worth discussing. So yeah, I guess this one deserves to be the classic that it's regarded as. As ever, we're looking forward to finding out what everyone else made of these. I hope everyone is keeping well, and until next time, glory to you and your cast.
Well, let's see if we can canon our way around this one. So automatic deflectors might be similar to the deflectors they use to deflect space debris and asteroids and that sort of thing. So at this stage in the history of development of spaceships, the D7s, not that we see them as D7s in this one as we pointed out, their armaments are easily repellable by the automatic deflectors, whereas later photon torpedoes and phasers, they haven't got any defence against those. They're more powerful, so therefore automatic deflectors aren't so useful. There you are, solved that one.
Doesn't fit with my book, though.
Oh, okay. And I think Star Trek VI kind of highlights the fact that Kirk does deep down see himself as a warrior, actually.
Yeah.
Spock's all like, I think your captain actually feels himself more of an explorer. And he's like, nope.
Yeah.
About kicking butts.
Yep. Yep.
And so it proves in this episode.
Yeah. It's a bit like, I did try to be a hippie when I was a teenager. I was the most aggressive hippie you've ever fucking met, trust me. I can remember once beating 7 bells out my sister because she interrupted me while I was meditating.
Militant hippie.
Yeah.
Urgh.
So it's like, I just think it's his personality to be like that. And he's found a positive outlet for it, which is good. But he's now mature enough. I wasn't at 15. He's now mature enough to know that is who he is. If you see what I mean.
He is Popeye the Sailor Man. No, wait.
No, fuck off. We're not having that fucking tune that you
Oh!
keep fucking playing all the fucking time when you get a chance.
My family does not appreciate the finer points of the Popeye movies, sadly.
Finer points. It's fucking terrible. Don't watch it. Trust me, it's bloody
one of those
awful.
rarities, a cool musical.
No, that he doesn't like musicals. I do. That's shit. Okay, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Come on, Robin Williams is Popeye. Genius. Anyways, let's find out what Drew and Tracy thought.
Hello, we just watched Errand of Mercy.
And what did you think of that one then?
Well, I thought it was excellent.
You were just so into this
I
one.
loved it. It's a
weren't
classic.
you?
Yes.
Everyone is a classic.
No, not
to
everyone
you.
is, but this was.
All right, let's go through some.
Okay.
So this is the introduction of the
Klingons.
Yahoo! But not as we know them, Jim.
No.
Come on. As soon as they came out, I didn't know what this episode was about because obviously I don't know what any of them were about. And as soon as they came out, I was like,
You're
having a fucking
You've seen the
laugh.
old Klingons
I
over
have,
before, but
but
they
I've
are
not
really
seen them
terrible
like
in
that.
this episode, actually.
Half of them just look like college boys with their like
Boot polish on,
cat
isn't it?
haircut
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Anyway, let's start again. So they land on the planet Organia.
Yes.
With their green goats.
Yep.
What the fuck was that about?
I missed that. I didn't see the green
Well,
goats.
at the beginning when they kind of beamed down and all these people were walking past and the guy had like these
Green
two
goats?
Yeah, they were like
Missed
had
that.
like green.
Okay.
I nearly said fur. They're not fur, but they had like
Yeah.
green coats. It was like,
Okay.
what is that? So the Klingon have got like this mind scanner.
Yes, they use on Spock. Yes.
Where's that come from?
I don't know.
And why did that disappear?
Don't know. It's not the kind of thing you'd think they would have, is it? But, you know, early Klingons.
See, all I kept thinking about during this episode was, you know, if the TNG crew, so like if Picard went back in time to
Yes.
like the Kirk storyline, he could fucking eliminate the Klingons because they're all a bunch of pansies,
Yeah.
really, and they're not that hard. And then they would never have had like Klingon War and stuff like that.
But like they say at the end of the episode, you're going to become friends one day, and it does. It comes true, doesn't it? Because we're friends in TNG with the Klingons.
With Worf.
Yeah, and I mean, Kur, he's excellent in this, isn't he? John Colico. He's just such a great coach. I think he makes this episode, and he is in Deep Space Nine. Do you remember? He's one of the three Klingons that comes back, friends of Dax. Do you remember?
No.
Okay, fair enough. So even he becomes friends one day with the Federation.
No, but it's not really the point, is there? All the Klingon War and stuff like that we
Yeah.
go through, like to just have one little friend. No, that's not good. Although I did keep thinking, oh, Gowron would quite like his like gold tabard and the
Yes,
sash. Wouldn't
yeah.
he? He'd look quite fetching.
He's such a
in
great
that.
character, though. I think he absolutely makes this episode. He's so like kind of Machiavellianly
But
evil,
there's
isn't he?
nothing- I think if I'd watched this, like if I was like 20 years older and I'd watched this in the 60s and didn't know any different, then yeah, I could get it. But because I know what I know, I'm just like, this is rubbish.
They are poor Klingons,
They're
yes.
really poor.
If the Organians had just said at any point of this episode, oh, by the way, we've got like superpowers, we can sort all this out, it could have just been over, couldn't it? I guess we'll have an
Exactly.
episode.
It was just daft, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just, why didn't they say anything at any point?
But we have to draw some inference from the fact that the leader of the elders, the Organian elders, what a fucking snitch!
Yeah, I know.
He
But
just
yeah,
gave them up straight away.
But it
didn't
does
he?
make sense when you know at the end what's going on.
But
Yeah.
I was just like, you.
I know, you were just getting really mad. I was like, don't worry.
You bastard! So the Klingon leader I don't know
Yeah,
what his name is.
Kur.
Kur, yeah. So he announces himself as a commander.
Hmm.
And I've not heard of a commander rank in the Klingon
Klingons.
army
not too sure.
rank before. Is that another
Not
one?
too sure.
So again, that confused me because I've never heard that before. I've never heard of a Klingon as a commander. I might be wrong. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I think this episode is excellent. It's good.
love
I
them
do.
all.
No, but I really like this episode. It's good. Introduction of the Klingons. Kur is an excellent character. Super beings. It's got everything, isn't it?
I know
from
you
Star
love
Trek.
this because there was a couple of times I was talking to the cat and you kept
I
like,
watch the
that?"
episode.
He's getting really cross with me. But
Yeah.
yeah. No, I enjoyed it as well.
It's good. It's good stuff.
Anyway, leave it there.
Okie dokie.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye buys.
Bye.
There are definitely green goats. I mean, they
Yeah.
only make a brief appearance, but they are there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right that Gowron would like his tabard.
No, because that's a different house, isn't it?
No, but I think he'd like all the gold accoutrements. He'd like accoutrements. He'd like the bling.
No, this is an interesting thing because obviously Worf ends up wearing it. So does that mean that
Martok is from the house of...
No, because he joins the House of Martok later, doesn't he? So this is the House of Moog. So Kor is from the House of Moog. No, it can't be, can he?
Or the House of Moog has links to the House of Kor.
Possibly.
And
or whatever
that's
house,
why...
because not necessarily the House of Kor, obviously.
Yeah, but then that's why in Deep Space Nine episode, Kor is so cross with Worf.
Maybe.
And there's the antagonism there.
Yeah, because Kor belongs to a very noble house, doesn't he?
But then he's a Dahar Master, so he's made it a noble house.
But not only that, but there was that episode where it was made out that
Martok comes from a poorer background.
Yes, and he's put down, isn't he, as a result?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all later on.
Much later.
But earlier on from this podcast perspective. But there we are.
Yes,
So confusing.
But yeah, I mean, there's me going, why the fuck doesn't Kirk ask the right questions? But also, why do the Organians not say
fess
anything?
up, yes.
Yeah.
That would have made the episode a lot shorter, clearer, but therein lies the problem, I guess.
Yeah. And you're right, he is a snitch, although you do understand why later. In terms of the rank of commander...
Yeah, I think that's quite common with Klingons. It's their equivalent to captain rank, I think.
No, because commander is below captain. I think
No,
that's
in Federation, but I'm not sure it is. They don't have captains in the Klingon rank structure.
I thought you've got... I thought Martok was a captain, and I thought...
No, he was general, wasn't he? There is a Captain Clar, isn't there? Now, what's that from? What was Christopher... No, he was never general. No, Christopher Lloyd in Krug. I have a feeling he was a commander, you see.
Okay.
2, Memory Alpha.
Kang was a commander. Apparently, Krug was a commander.
Yeah, there you go. So it was the commander is like their equivalent of captain.
Okay, so the ranks are Fleet Admiral, General, Brigadier, Colonel, Captain, Commander, Lieutenant, Sergeant. So commander is below captain.
Yeah, they do have captain then, but they come up very often.
Possibly not. And they might not, although that might be the tree, as it were, they might not be exact equivalents.
Yes, exactly. And yes, I think that Kolokos kind of makes the episode, really.
Yeah.
It certainly would have been a lot rougher without him, I think.
See, I think it's fairly easy to ignore the rest of the Klingons.
Yes, the lieutenant is very wooden.
Oh, and yeah, he's
Nobody
bad.
else gets to speak much.
But as the governor, as he is in this, because he's the governor of Organa, or at least he claims to be Organia, whatever. Oh God, I've gone to a Star Wars place again. Sorry, it's because it reminded me so much of Andor. You know, he is fantastic. And the idea that any empire, bearing in mind this is the Klingon Empire, might have some shit troops in some places is not difficult to believe. So I don't have an issue with the idea that the rest of the Klingons are not that brilliant, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But then what matters is the people issuing the orders, and he is fantastic, and I really like him. Okay, Purry, what did he make of this?
Hello, Orgs. Purry here to talk about Errand of Mercy. Another good episode, I feel, with a wee string of them. This is, of course, our first canon appearance of the Klingons. Not the introduction to the Klingons. It was one of the things people got hit up with, actually, way back with Enterprise and later in Discovery. And people saying, and people who quite often criticise people for the lack of Star Trek knowledge coming and saying, "Yeah, actually, I think you'll find Klingons were first encountered in the episode Errand of Mercy." No, they weren't. Watch the episode. They're discussing negotiations between their empires. It's quite established that the Klingons are known and a culture that has been encountered before, which indeed carries a bit of a different tone now that we've looked at things like Discovery, where there's definitely been a bloody war with the Klingons before. So I kind of actually like this, that these are the ongoing negotiations over several years from Discovery that have slowly broken down, because indeed we do end up at war. Now, of course, the plot of the episode is the Enterprise has to go and try to secure the planet Organia, very much mirroring the Cold War kind of brush fires where NATO and Warsaw Pact, America and Russia tried to kind of occupy and help out other nations. And this actually doesn't put the episode in a great light, the Federation rather, in a great light, because ultimately they're bringing what looks like a very primitive culture, Prime Directive, into a war, offering them lots of technology to be on their side to use it as a staging area for a war, or at least deny it to the Klingons. And of course the Klingons show up in numbers and promptly take over. Now, in the remaster, I think we do get a nice D7 kicking out here. I do love a D7. And the Klingons are led by Kor, played brilliantly by John Colicos. Yes, Baltar. 2 Baltars now being in Star Trek, thanks to Picard Season 2. There's a strange statistic. But yeah, John Colicos, he is actually really good. And one of the interesting things I found, now, Klingons are inconsistent as hell in TOS, but they actually do have hints of what we'd come to get established Klingons. There is this, you can tell that Kor does not like the Organians just peacefully saying, yeah, okay, take over their planet, that's fine. He wanted a fight. He's actually quite happy with Kirk even before he knows who he is, because he wants someone to kick back at him. And part of it is he wants to be more repressive, but he's obviously, if you consider that in the context, with the future context of Klingons from later series, you do get that idea of the martial culture, and indeed, in many ways, you could see Kor there being annoyed that he has been sent off to some backwater who rolled over without a fight, and he has no chance to honour himself in the battlefield. We do have some weird things. The Klingons using a mind sifter doesn't seem particularly honourable. Some of the Klingon extras were really bad. The one who they bump into, he just doesn't seem convincing as a Klingon at all. The hey, watch where you're going guy. Oh, he was quite useless. And what we also get is Kirk and Kor effectively kind of desperate to fight a war. And again, we'd expect this from the Klingons, but the fact that Kirk's getting annoyed at the Organians for forcing them to have peace is kind of interesting, and it's one I know now, but it's still quite a nicely executed twist that the Organians are basically saying to Kirk, "Nah, go, we've got this, we're fine," and eventually say, "Right, okay, no war for either of you, there you go." And I kind of quite like that, where Kirk kind of gets badgered into basically, saying, "No, wait, we're wanting to fight," and them saying, "Hey, you see, you're not quite as developed as you think," and yeah, I thought actually quite a nice twist to the episode. So yeah, some good to and fro from Kirk and Kor, and a nice little sort of plot that ran through. I quite enjoyed the whole episode. So yeah, decent one here. Another kind of good Trek episode again. Finding its feet, or just we've run into some of the good scripts. I'll let you decide. Anyway, all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I'll feedback on the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye. You're right. What about the Prime Directive? Do they just, we've declared war, fuck that?
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because, there is the inference that they're not only going to provide medical support, but
all sorts of stuff he comes out in there.
Yeah, basically, get on our side, we'll give you all the stuff. It's like, it doesn't sound good.
No. And has he been sent off to some backwater?
Well, not really. It's not a backwater in as much as, it's frustrating that the populace won't fight him, but it's strategically important, so he knows he's going to see some action there, basically. So,
okay.
I think he is frustrated that the populace aren't particularly inspiring to him, but
he just calls them sheep all the time.
Yes, he does.
The word sheeple hadn't been invented at this point.
Yes, thankfully. I mean, that whole thing about, it's not the introduction of the Klingons, because clearly both Kirk and Spock know who the Klingons are before they meet them.
Yeah.
Right at the first scene, they're talking about them, but it's still our introduction to the Klingons, so that's why it's slightly irksome when we start seeing stories from before, because we know actually this is the first story. And, it's such a really good... I mean, this is the reason why Klingons continued on in the future, not just because the makeup was cheap and racist, but actually because...
because Kolikos,
does
sells
wonders
it.
with the role. So yeah.
And in terms of having stuff in the prequels, I wouldn't mind, I don't think, if they hadn't given them the later look. I think that the next gen, the DS9 episode, Trials and Tribulations, deals with the change in Klingon look brilliantly. We do not talk about it with outsiders.
Yeah, let's not get bogged down in that. Oh boy. So there we go. Thank you to everybody who's fed back.
Thanking yous.
We do, as Poria said, we do seem to be having a nice run of classic episodes at the moment.
Yeah.
Will that continue? Well, the next one we cover in 2 weeks' time. It's a little earlier, on Wednesday the 7th of December. It's a little episode called City on the Edge of Forever.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yes. Okay, so kind of well known on that one.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
If you want to stick with this feed next week, we will be giving our thoughts on the Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode, The Elsian Kingdom. And that's recording on Thursday the 1st of December. Until then, take care. Cheerio, bye.
Bye.
Pure energy.
The opening music for this podcast was provided by the talented Drew Barker.
The artwork was created by Andy Palastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Shut it down!